I'm Dyer. In this video I'll show you how I created this illustration of Alice from Zenless Zone Zero. My process is still not clear and kind of messy, but maybe I can show you some techniques that I tried while working on this piece, like using layer modes, creating rain, photo bashing, mesh transform, and others. I divide the whole process into 5 stages. Idea, rough, lighting, details, effects. I think that any successful illustration should start with a specific goal. Of course, you can make a masterpiece by accident, but if you draw like that, you're just playing a lottery where you can end up with nothing and lose your motivation. For me, the idea stage is more like setting goals, which will guide every decision I make. Your goal can be as simple as a single word, like sad, calm, cute, evil, heroic, and etc. My first goal is to make it epic. The second is dynamic, and the last is detailed. To start, I looked for references of the character. You can also include your previous works to the board to have a consistent style. I recommend free app PureRef. Then, having goals ready, I immediately came up with the pose and the angle. I chose a low angle perspective, where she steps forward and throws her weapon. When you draw any pose or any object, it's important to understand where the horizon line is. If the angle is low, the horizon line is at the bottom. Since the angle is low, the horizon line is almost at the level of the feet, and the camera is tilted upwards, it creates a 3-point perspective. This adds volume and movement to the composition. Making the horizon line go diagonally also makes the shot look much more dynamic. I wanted the pose to look like it's in slow-mo, so I drew her in the middle of a step and planned to add more frozen objects around her later. Don't forget to save the file and try not to drop your keyboard. It's good to test the lighting in black and white since it saves time and lets you concentrate on values more. The most Orofarm lighting type, in my opinion, is light from the back. It's literally cool guys don't look at explosions. Moreover, this lighting creates rim lighting effect, which helps separate the focal point from the background. I also experimented with other lighting scenarios, like from the front. Sometimes you can even combine these unused attempts with the main light source to create ambient or reflected light. Next, I filled the base colors below the lighting layer. By using Ctrl-U shortcut, I adjusted colors to my liking. Now, as the atmosphere was finally clear to me, I started thinking about details. At this point, I got an idea of adding the rain. I think it turned out well in the finished piece. First, I took a random texture in Clip Studio and aligned it. Then, I applied motion blur vertically. Finally, I used brightness and contrast sliders to make the droplets visible. Now you can copy and paste this layer and align it with perspective. Rain, consisting of many straight lines, is a great tool to show perspective. Moreover, it adds a huge amount to detail. Every time you think you lack perspective in your drawing, I suggest you to use more straight lines. To make the cloudy sky, I just used a copyright-free photo and added color adjustments. Photo bashing saves you time and it has a lot of details. Then I just refined previous steps. For example, I thought that the focal point still lacked contrast, so I added an additional light source above to make the face stand out from the background. You may have noticed that I still didn't create line art. That's because I decided to go with the approach of refining the sketch instead of starting over. If you feel that your drawing looks lifeless after line art, you should definitely try it. Just take your sketch, use a razor and redraw specific parts, paying more attention to the places near the focal point. For example, I decided to redraw the skirt and improve the detail on her belts on the waist. This way I redrew pretty much everything, without losing the dynamic vibe of a sketch. When drawing objects like boots in perspective, it's useful to draw the face in projection, I mean in rectangle, and then apply it to the perspective. For the background, I tried a city landscape, but then I decided to revert it. By the way, here's how you can draw windows easily. I moved the rain because I thought the angle was a little off. That's why you need to always save your untransformed images, so you can reuse them in such cases. When I thought that the character is finished, I did something scary. I merged everything to a single layer.
Быстрее! Или вы ждете, пока алкоголь испарится? Не верится!
It's done to make rendering easier, because you can paint over any line and work freely on details without switching layers. I also thought that adding texture to the tights might also look cool, so I grabbed a free texture and put it on the legs with Mesh Transform. The layer mask function is very good in such cases. I experimented with the layer modes and this is what I had. effects are a cherry on top. This is often my favorite part of illustration, because they can increase the amount of information and can instantly change the whole mood. Firstly, I added droplets and dust particles around the character and on the ground. Why are they seen only there? Because the light bounces off the objects and illuminates the particles. Moreover, the camera is focused on the character, so the particles are most resolved there. Also, I like to add lens blur effect. You can use images on a black background and use color dodge layer to make them transparent. In the end, you can add Perlin noise and RGB shift to increase details. To make the RGB shift effect, I used free macros that I found on Clip Studio store. By the way, I don't recommend you to apply the RGB shifts on the whole illustration. You can apply it and then erase in the places that you don't want, or else just move one of the layers by liquefying or mesh transformation. Don't forget the watermark, and here's the result. Honestly, I really like how it turned out, and I think it was underrated by the algorithms. While editing, I got so carried away that I even made animated wallpaper, although I doubt that anyone has such screen. You can download the PSD file with all the layers in the link down below. This is my first time making a video for YouTube, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions or video ideas, write me in DM or here in the comments. Visit my Telegram channel and subscribe to my socials. Bye bye.